Picture this. You walk into a mall to buy one pair of running shoes. 40 minutes later, you're walking out with 3 bags, a coffee you didn't want 10 minutes ago, and a receipt that's nearly 4 times what you planned to spend. And somehow, you don't feel tricked. You feel like you had a nice afternoon. Here's a number that will make you look at every mall differently for the rest of your life. Somewhere in that building, a massive department store doing tens of millions of dollars a year in sales might be paying under $10 a square foot in rent. A few feet away, a tiny kiosk selling sunglasses or phone cases, barely 200 square feet, could be paying 3 or 4 times that amount per square foot for a fraction of the space in the exact same building. Read that again. The biggest store in the mall, the one everyone assumes is the main moneymaker, often pays the least. The smallest stand in the hallway quietly pays some of the highest rent in the entire property. That is not a mistake. That is the entire business model, and shopping malls have been running it successfully for 70 years, mostly without anyone in line at the food court ever noticing. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how that machine works, dollar by dollar. And more importantly, you'll understand the real lesson hiding underneath it, because this was never really about shoes or sunglasses or malls. It's about the difference between people who spend inside a money machine and the tiny few who quietly own it. Most people assume a mall makes money the way a normal store does. It sells things and it profits from what you buy. Brand name shops everywhere, registers ringing, so a mall must basically be one giant retail company collecting a slice of a giant sales pie. That assumption is wrong, and once you see why, you'll start noticing it everywhere. A mall is not a retailer. A mall is a real estate operation wearing the costume of a shopping trip. The people who own it are not in the business of selling sneakers, perfume, or soft pretzels. They are in the business of renting square footage, and they've discovered something most people never think about. Foot traffic itself can be sold, packaged, and priced like a product. Here's the clearest way to see it. Picture 2 malls side by side, both getting the exact same number of visitors every single day. In Mall A, people wander in, stroll past dozens of storefronts, and browse nearly every shop before they leave. In Mall B, people arrive with the same energy, but walk straight to one store, buy what they need, and leave. Same visitor count, same city, same shoppers even. But Mall A is worth hundreds of millions of dollars more than Mall B, and it isn't close. Why? Because Mall A's owner isn't really selling shoes or phone cases. He's selling attention minute by minute, storefront by storefront. Mall B's owner is sitting on a building full of people who never even glance at 70% of the units. The real estate is identical. The behavior inside it is worth a fortune more. Now those numbers from the beginning make sense. A giant anchor store, the department chain with 2 floors and its own parking entrance, gets rock-bottom rent on purpose. Sometimes the mall owner even pays the anchor money or covers part of its construction just to get it to move in. Why hand over the best real estate almost for free? Because the anchor is bait. It's a name so recognizable that thousands of people will drive across town specifically to shop there. And none of those people teleport straight to the anchor's front door. They have to walk past dozens of smaller storefronts every single day. That walk is not wasted time in the mall owner's spreadsheet. That walk is the entire product being sold. The smaller stores lining that walkway pay the real rent, and a large chunk of it typically isn't even a flat fee. It's tied to a percentage lease, meaning once a store crosses a certain sales threshold, say $200,000 a year, the landlord starts taking an additional 5%, sometimes more, of every dollar earned above that line. So the mall isn't just renting you a box. It's quietly becoming your business partner with none of the risk and all of the upside. Add in the common area maintenance fees for cleaning the halls you walk through, the marketing fund fees that pay for the mall's own advertising, and even the income from cell tower antennas and rooftop leases that carriers pay to sit quietly above the food court. often several $1,000s a month per carrier for equipment nobody shopping below ever notices. And you start to see a building with dozens of separate income streams stacked on top of each other, most of them collected before a single customer swipes a card. The anchor store is the lure. You are the fish. Every hallway in between is where the actual money gets caught. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you a little, because none of this only happens by accident of layout. It happens because the building itself is designed to change who you are for the hour you're inside it. In 1956, an architect named Victor Gruen opened Southdale Center outside Minneapolis, the first fully enclosed, climate-controlled shopping mall in America. Gruen deliberately gave it almost no exterior windows and a blank, forgettable facade. He wanted shoppers to walk in from a gray parking lot and suddenly be dazzled by lights, fountains, and greenery inside, with nothing pulling their attention back toward the outside world. No clock, no sky, no sense of how much time had passed. That effect now has a name, the Gruen Transfer, and it describes the exact moment a shopper loses track of why they came in and slips into browsing mode instead, dramatically more open to buying things they never planned on. It's still taught in architecture schools today. Here's the twist. Almost nobody knows. Victor Gruen hated what his own invention became. Later in life, he said the developers who copied his design had turned his civic vision into a commercial machine, and he spent his final years trying to distance himself from the very industry he'd created. The man who invented the modern mall ended up disowning it. That disorientation is only half the trick. The other half is fatigue. Every decision you make while shopping, this shirt or that one, this price or a better deal somewhere else, quietly drains a limited mental resource psychologists call decision fatigue. That's exactly why food courts and big open atriums sit in the dead center of a mall instead of near the entrance. After an hour of comparing and choosing, your brain wants a reward. A slice of pizza or a sweet coffee gives it one and resets you just enough to send you back out for another hour of shopping with noticeably weaker resistance than when you arrived. Even the air is doing work. Slower tempo music measurably makes people walk slower and linger longer. The smell of cinnamon or fresh coffee pumped near entrances lifts people's mood, and people in a better mood spend more freely, almost every time. None of this is guesswork. Casinos have used nearly identical techniques for decades. No clocks, no windows, curved paths, constant gentle stimulation, all engineered to make time disappear. A shopping mall dressed up in nicer lighting is running a softer version of a casino floor. Now here's the twist that flips everything you think you know about malls. You've probably heard for years that online shopping killed the mall. It's a comforting story, tidy and simple, and almost completely wrong for the buildings that actually matter. The weak malls did die. Roughly 40 of them close every single year in America, and more than 1 in 10 loans tied to struggling regional malls is currently behind on payments. But the strongest malls in the country, the ones real estate professionals quietly call Class A, are having their best years ever. At some of these properties, sales per square foot have jumped as much as 60% since before the pandemic. Occupancy is sitting near 95%. Lenders are so confident in these buildings that financing tied to top-tier malls has roughly doubled in the last year alone. Online shopping didn't kill the machine. It simply separated the malls that were only ever selling square footage from the malls that had learned to sell an experience worth leaving your house for. So follow $1 all the way through this system, because this is where it gets personal. You hand your card to the cashier at a shoe store inside the mall. A percentage of that dollar goes straight to the mall's owner as rent. If that owner happens to be a public company, and many of the largest ones are, that rent becomes revenue for a real estate investment trust, a business structure required by law to pass almost all of its profit on to shareholders. That revenue becomes a dividend, and that dividend lands in the account of whoever owns a small slice of that company, someone who may never have set foot in your city, let alone that mall, on the day you bought your shoes. One of the largest owners of shopping malls in America started in 1960 as a family of brothers building strip malls in Indiana. Today, that company owns or holds interests in over 200 properties, generates close to $6 billion a year, and charges an average base rent of roughly $58 a square foot across its entire portfolio. Another family arrived in North America with almost nothing, building a fortune trading rugs before moving into real estate, and now owns 3 of the largest shopping malls on the entire continent, built on exactly the mechanics you just learned. Neither of those fortunes was built by shopping. They were built by owning the walls, the floor, and the parking lot that shoppers walk through. This pattern is not unique to malls. Someone builds the casino, someone else pulls the lever. Someone owns the apartment building, someone else pays a little more to live inside it every year. Someone owns shares in the company running the mall, someone else swipes their card at the register. It's the same dollar. It just always ends up in one of 2 very different pockets, depending on which side of the building you're standing on. You've probably walked through dozens, maybe hundreds, of these buildings across your entire life. Every single time, without exception, someone was collecting rent, percentage fees, marketing charges, and antenna income while you were simply trying to find a parking spot. And almost nobody ever stops to ask who that someone actually is. This isn't a reason to feel guilty about shopping, and it's not a reason to avoid malls forever. It's a reason to notice something most people are never taught. Spending and owning are 2 completely different financial identities, and you can absolutely be more than just one of them. Start small. Recognize the moment your brain shifts into wander mode, when you've lost track of time and can't remember the last window or clock you saw, and use that as your cue to pause. Understand that when a store's rent is tied to a percentage of its sales, that cost doesn't vanish. It gets quietly folded into the price tag you pay at checkout. And most importantly, start paying attention to the ownership side of the businesses and buildings you walk through every week, whether that's through real estate, stocks, or small pieces of the companies that profit from everyday spending, instead of only ever standing on the customer side of the counter. So the next time you walk into a mall, look around and count how many businesses in that building are trying to earn money from you. Then ask yourself one simple question: how many of them do you actually own? Because millions of people walk into shopping malls every weekend believing they're there to buy a pair of shoes. In reality, they're walking straight into one of the most profitable real estate businesses ever built. They think they're customers. The owners have always known their traffic.